I think we
Hello.
were pretty on the money with that one. All
For it
right.
being a while, I think we were
It's
we
been a
were we
while.
were there.
Welcome to Muscle Science for Women podcast. We may have forgotten how to do this. It's been a couple weeks. It's funny though how we go like maybe 2 weeks, like maybe a little bit more without talking to each other, and I feel like it's been a million years. It's kind of crazy. But I
Yeah.
was also thinking that we deserve a break and that maybe we just need to in the future do a better job of like setting boundaries and creating like a summer vacation for ourselves. I don't know if
Yeah.
you're like, I don't know, you've gone on like a couple trips lately and maybe it's different because you're, you know, child free and like doing, flowing in the breeze. But like, I do think when you're an entrepreneur, this isn't a complaint. Like, don't, I'm not like whining. It's just, it is kind of sometimes harder to create breaks because you have a more flexible schedule, but you work for yourself. And like any week that you aren't working, you potentially aren't making money. So it's a little different
hmm
than if you work for somebody and just say, hey, I'm taking my 5 days or whatever.
Yeah.
So I do a terrible job of that. It's not like I work the longest hours or the craziest job by any means, but I often will like think and be like, I haven't actually like taken real vacation. So all that to say,
Yeah.
we took a couple weeks off from the podcast and we're happy to be back, right? I am. Are you?
Yes.
Good.
Yes, I am. I had a difficulty doing that like when I first, well, probably up until like the last year or two, like taking vacation.
Mhm.
But I think like since the last, I guess maybe 2 years, um, the biggest thing is just not bringing my laptop or like not opening it. So I used
Mhm.
to like go on vacation, like, when you have downtime in the hotel room, when you're relaxing a little bit, like prepping for dinner, whatever. Like I would pull out my laptop, answer emails, things like that. And so the last like year or two, I like don't do that. I'm like,
Yep.
I'm just gonna not bring my laptop because then I'm not tempted to. And that has been, it's been nice because then you come back like actually refreshed, right?
Yes. Yep.
So
Yeah, I feel like that vacation that I took in the winter, when I went to Mexico with my family, that was like the first vacation in memory that I did not bring a laptop, and I was a little bit like, oh no. And then I have to remember, I'm
yeah.
like, I'm not that important, and nothing I do is that important. It's not a big deal. Just take your vacation, and then you, like you said, you come back and you actually feel like you relaxed. So
Yeah.
that's
Yep.
nice. Well, while you were vacationing and partying and having a good time, can I tell you about some stuff that
Mm-hmm.
happened to me?
Please
Well, just
do.
just to like warm us back up before we get into some questions. You guys know the drill by now, listeners. Like we yammer on for a little bit and then we answer some questions for you. This is all running related. So you know that I had been training for this other 10K, right? And so I was going to do another 10K. I don't know why. Why does anyone run? But whatever. I had signed up for
Really?
it and it was an evening one, like it was a sunset one on this like very challenging trail right along the ocean. So I think that's kind of why, because it was beautiful and like fun and it was going to be nicer weather than the winter one I did. And Alex signed up for it too, so we were going to do it together. It was going to be fun on the ocean, barbecue, run, whatever. Great. So some stuff happened. I don't know. I had a very busy month. I wasn't really training properly. So I'm like coming up to the run. I'm like, maybe this isn't a good idea because I'm not the kind of person. I mean, I could walk 10K any day of my life, whatever, but I'm not the
Mhm.
kind of person who like wants to do a running race not feeling prepared. Some people are naturally good. It can just be like, I'll do it. And like, it'll be fine. It won't be my best run. But I was like, I don't
Mhm.
think that's really intelligent for me to do. So I was kind of getting in my head, like, maybe I shouldn't do this. And then I had a really stressful month, some stuff that doesn't need to get into on the podcast. Everything's fine, but I had a stressful month and I had spent one day like working way too much. And I was like, I am now just hunched over my computer, being all hunched in bad posture
Yeah.
and probably dehydrated. And at one point I had like reached back, like I just kind of leaned, like went, nobody, if you're not watching the video, the YouTube video, you can't see this, but I kind of like pulled my arms back to sort of stretch, like just stretch
Mhm.
my chest and I felt like something in my back. I was like, what did I just, why did my back hurt? Like, what did I do? I
Oh
didn't work
no.
my back. That night I went to bed. I couldn't breathe. I had I think, pinched a nerve in my back
Oh my
and
God.
it was like in my thoracic and it was like a band around my rib cage. Like I could not take a deep breath. I was like, I am officially that like cliche old person who like injures themselves from stretching. It was ridiculous. And so that was the day before the run. So I'm like, whoever the powers that be are saying, like, don't do this run, you
Yeah.
dummy. You are not prepared for this. So I bowed out, which is unfortunate, but at the same time, I'm like, whatever, I wasn't ready. So
Yeah.
Alex decided he was going to do it anyway because he is the kind of person who can just go run. He's good at running and in much better shape than I am. And so he did it. And Magnus and I went, and some of my family went to watch him. And we were waiting for the people to come back. And a couple of the very first fast runners came in, like the really, 5'8", 150-pound, like runners, like running fast. They came in. I was like, okay, well, Alex is a good runner, but he's not going to probably be in like the top 5 or 10,
Yeah.
maybe. He'll be in the top. And so I'm like looking down the beach and I see this big guy come out of the woods because he's big for a runner and he's
Yeah.
walking. And I'm like, oh no, oh
Oh,
no, what happened? And he crosses the finish line and he's like, I think I broke my ankle at the like end of the run. So it turns out
what?
like this trail run was like, Alex is going to listen to this too and be like, you're telling all my business. But anyway, I'll get to it. But the run was like incredibly tough. Another reason why I'm glad in retrospect I didn't do it. Like these trail runs are insane. Like they're overgrown, they're rocky, you're running on a path where you can't see where your feet are falling. Like
Yeah.
it's wild. Like you just have to be a
Dangerous.
different kind of person, yeah, to do this. And it turns out he'd had the best run of his life. I'm so proud of him. Like this guy again, he's 40 and like 8 inches taller and like 50 pounds heavier than the first 10 people who were running this race. And he was in ninth place when he was going down a hill, rolled his ankle, and had to
Oh,
walk the last like kilometer, like bit of a, And
yeah.
so we went from being like, yay, you're like one of the first people to cross the finish line, even with walking the last K.
Yeah.
And then I had to drop him off at an emergency room to get an x-ray. Long story short, he like I think very, very intensely pulled like a ligament. He didn't break a bone, thank goodness, because
Yeah.
that would have been like
Yeah.
our whole summer. But I don't know what the moral of the story is other than to just remind everyone to stretch, drink your
Mhm.
water, and I don't know, like look where you're going. I guess. But he was like this
Look
run
where
was
you're going.
literally the best run of his life. I'm so proud of him. But it does kind of come back to this like balance that I find I'm dealing with a lot of my clients, because my clients tend to be not 20, like my
Yeah.
clients tend to be in the 40s, 50s range. And there's always this balance that we're striking between really pushing it and challenging yourself and not settling or not only doing easy stuff because you're not quote unquote young anymore, but also
Mhm.
knowing that like stuff's going to happen. I mean, I had a bad month and I hurt myself just existing, and
Yeah.
it's better now, but like it was scary. And then Alex, who's super fit and, whatever, who's to say if he like slowed down a little bit, maybe it wouldn't have happened. I don't know. But he was like, I'm feeling great. I'm having the best run of my life. I'm killing it. Like, I'm beating all
Yeah.
these young people. I'm going to go. And then he could have almost, ruined
Yeah.
his summer. So,
Yeah.
anyway, that's what's been
Yeah.
going on here. And then I'm talking a lot, but just to cap that off, one other running related thing that I want to tell you. If you have some downtime, if you want to watch some TV, if you don't want to think about politics, if you don't want to be stressed out, watch the Netflix docuseries Sprint.
Mhm.
Have
I've
you
been
seen
watching
any
it.
of it? You
Yeah.
have? Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Alex has been putting it on
oh,
Saturday mornings.
I am like, it's my favorite sport to watch. Track and field has always been my
Yeah.
favorite sport to watch. I've never been good at it. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm so amazed. Like, who isn't amazed watching the fastest runners in the world?
Yeah.
Right. So it's like following all these Olympic track athletes, and they're like leading up to the Olympics. And it's just, I love everything about it. I love like learning about their personalities and seeing their training. And it's like, I get so
Yeah.
stressed watching them race, and it
Yeah.
it like freaks me out. But anyway,
It's cool though. Yeah.
so that's my TV recommendation. And that's now you're caught up.
Nice. Yeah, I feel like I can relate a little bit to like this last month. We were talking about this a little bit off air. Just I've been like I've been sick. I went on my vacation and it seemed to pause there for a while. But it just feels like I've been sick for the last like 5 weeks, with little pauses in between. And it's really taken a toll on just like my ability to even train at all.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's another, we talked about this, I think, on the last podcast, just like for me, especially during the summer, like with traveling and like wanting to enjoy life and continue to do that, like my training takes a back seat. Nutrition also takes a little bit of a back seat, which
Yeah.
at this point in my life, I'm actually like okay with that. I'm sure, once summer's over, I'll get back to a point where I'm like, all right, let's dial it back in. Let's set a goal or, whatever it may be. But I think right now I'm just kind of surviving
Yep.
and trying to like get back to just feeling 100% on like a normal day, like
Yep.
waking up and being like, okay, I don't have low energy. Like I'm not sick. I was telling you this, I probably had COVID or have COVID or whatever
Yeah.
COVID.
Yeah.
So over it, but
Yeah.
it is what it is.
I think the thing to take out of my very rambling catch up here and what you're saying too is some of the wisdom that comes from being in this world for a long time is not that you are perfect all the time, and it's not that you never make mistakes or never get injured or anything like that. It's sort of being maybe more aware of, like, again, I've said this so many times, but removing emotion from what's happening and saying like there are consequences to my actions, there are consequences to making the less optimal decision, or even when it's just purely an accident or something completely out of your control, instead of like spiraling and being like, oh, I shouldn't have done that last weekend, or oh,
Yeah.
I just should have skipped that race, or I should have trained harder, or whatever. Just acknowledge like this is what happened, or even this is what I did to make that happen, and
Mm-hmm.
I know now, or I know better, and like let's move on. Like,
Exactly.
Ashley, stand up every once in a while at your desk, drink some water. Like it's not that hard.
Yeah.
um
Rachel, don't go
anyway.
on a 3-day bender and sleep for 12
3-day
hours and
bender.
dance more than you slept.
Don't never sleep for days on end. Yeah, exactly. So anyway,
Uh,
all
I'm in
right.
this like this summer has been very much like YOLO, like,
Love that.
but I continuously learn each time that
Mm-hmm.
like I can do better next time.
Mm-hmm.
I can reel it in a little bit more. I can still have fun, but like there's there's a limit.
You can YOLO
Um,
slightly less hard
yeah. Yeah, slightly
and still
less.
enjoy
I'm
it.
just
Yeah.
trying to get it out of my, yeah, I don't know. I just like this last year I've been so social. Like ever since we talked about me joining the kickball team, like
Mm-hmm.
what has it been, like 2 years ago? It's like my life has completely changed from like a social perspective, and
Mm-hmm.
it for good, but also when things change like that, there's also, like you said, consequences to that. So
And it just
finding that
adjustments too, right?
balance. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But
I
yeah,
love that for
learning
you.
along the way.
Yep.
And hopefully I have all the COVID
Ugh.
immunity or sickness immunity for the rest of the summer and hopefully
Yeah.
the year. And
Seriously.
then
That's
yeah,
miserable.
been annoying. But
All right. Well,
anyway,
let's
do
answer
some
some people's
questions.
questions, because I think that's probably why they're here. So, let's
Yeah.
start with a couple quick ones, because I put out a thing on Instagram. I got some questions, and I think we've got some ones that we can answer like pretty easily here.
Sweet.
One very like basic like softball. Let's get us back in the swing of things.
Mhm.
Somebody asked, why is it so much harder for women to lose fat than men?
Oh my gosh.
So here's the thing: when you put a question on Instagram, you're not going to get like details and information. So that allows us to answer very generic, like, high
Yeah.
level. Um, but do you want to start? Do you want me to start? You want to dive
Yeah.
in?
I mean,
Go
this is
for it.
like we could go in so many different directions. I think like the first thing that comes to mind is a general answer because it's a very general question is like in terms of easier, I feel like men will lose faster, especially in the beginning, because they just are larger human beings. And so like looking at the relative loss compared to a woman, or sorry, the not relative loss, just like in general. Um, if a man and a woman go on like a diet together, so to speak, there's always going to be like 9 out of 10 times the man is going to lose more in the beginning faster than the female is. Um, and by barely even trying. Like obviously they're going to try a little bit, but I have clients who, are women who have husbands and they go, on this little journey together. And it's always like, why is he, losing so much faster and he's barely even doing anything different? Um, it's kind of like that, just annoying thing that happens. But I think the biggest reason for that is just, again, like I said, men are generally larger. Um, and they generally will have a little bit more to lose if they're going on more of like a weight loss journey in the beginning. And then also they can eat more because they are larger. So they don't have to go into such a severe calorie
Mm.
restriction compared to maybe a smaller woman who is, um, who does. So that's just kind of like a general statement. There's all the little nitty gritty things we can get into with hormones and all the other things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that's just like general. And then I do think, it also is important to like not compare yourself to, right?
Yeah.
Like you shouldn't be comparing, even women should be comparing themselves to other women because we know like people have probably seen this on the internet. Like they have like pictures of 5 women lined up and they're all the same weight, but they're
Mm-hmm.
completely different body compositions, heights,
Yep.
builds,
Shape.
all of
Yep.
that, shape, right? And so you can't compare yourself, especially at the same weight, to somebody else because there's like so many different variables that go into that. So
Yeah.
I would say moral of the story from that standpoint is like, who cares? Focus on
Mm-hmm.
you and what you're doing. Nobody else, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, like step one, don't go on a weight loss journey with your male partner because
yeah,
you'll just be
step one.
really irritated. Like, let him go do his thing. Like, stop
Yeah,
drinking 1 beer a day and he loses 30 pounds while you have to go do everything to lose 4 pounds.
yeah,
Just don't do that. You're setting yourself up for anger. And I mean,
yeah.
again, like you were saying, the physiology hormone part, we don't have to go deep on this, but like the reason why it is harder, in addition to us just being smaller people, whatever, is because we are meant to have more fat. Like
Hmm.
we aren't supposed to have, our range of healthy body fat is higher than men's as a baseline, period. And it's because of reproduction. It's because we're built to carry babies, and whether you ever want to or not, that has nothing to do with it. Our bodies, our hormonal makeup is based on us having higher body fat percentage. So part of
Hmm.
one of the reasons why losing fat being harder for us is frustrating is because I think a lot of us are programmed to feel like we should have less fat than is actually healthy for us. And, some people, they want to lose fat, and that's a completely valid thing. And sometimes it's a healthy thing. And sometimes it's literally just unrealistic expectations for yourself. Women aren't supposed to, 99% of women aren't supposed to walk around with 12% body fat or super visible six pack all the time. That's not how our bodies are designed. So to try to, again, compare yourself to maybe what a lean dude percentage would be or what they would look like, it doesn't make sense. It's like apples to oranges. So
Hmm.
yeah, so those are the reasons why it's
Yeah.
hard. And I think instead of maybe, we're allowed to be frustrated by it, but also just kind of take a beat and be like, we're not, don't, yeah, like you said, don't compare yourself to men.
Yeah.
And we're kind of supposed to have more fat. Give yourself a break. And
Yeah.
it happens if you're consistent and you do the right things for a long time. The end.
The end.
Okay.
Well, before we go into the next question, I do
Yeah.
want to I have this on my mind because I just got a notification that my Amazon package got delivered to my door.
Yay.
Thank you, Ring Camera. Do you have a Ring Camera?
I don't know if it's called that, but I do have a thing where I can be like,
Like a
hey
thing? Yeah.
guy, just drop my protein powder off at the front door. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I got one we got one like a few months ago and I actually installed it like I don't know. I think I told you the story, but it was like install 4 feet from the ground or whatever. And I'm like, oh yeah, like
You're
this
like
is
at
four
people's
feet.
crotches or something.
Yeah, and it's literally at your crotch. I'm like, okay, I probably should measure that because this is literally like 2 feet.
Delivery people are like, who's this pervert that lives
Yeah,
here?
literally. It's on my list of things to do around the house. Anyway, that reminded me that Amazon Prime Day is either today that this episode releases, or within the next, let me see. Yeah, July 16th and 17th. So if you're listening to this episode on the day that it comes out, you are in luck. Um, there is a Prime Day deal. Do you want me to just like mention what it is? And then we can also
Yeah,
put it
do
in the show
that.
notes.
Yep.
Yeah, so Active Stacks, one of our sponsors, and if you've been here for a while, you know that we talk about them all the time, especially their beef protein powder, specifically the chocolate, is our go-to for Ninja Creamies. So they are having an Amazon Prime Day special. So for July 16th and 17th, whether you're a Prime member or not, you can get a really great discount on their products. So all of their Active Stacks products are on this deal. We are going to put the link in the show notes so you can look at the description below. Or you can go to Amazon and use the code 05 Prime MSW, and that will get you a really great discount on Active Stacks for Prime Day. And if you are listening to this after Prime Day is over, we will also link our general discount code so you can still get a discount. It will just be through the general Active Stacks website.
Nice.
Did I miss
Well
anything?
done. No, that's great.
Okay.
That was a well executed ad.
Sweet.
And
And I
Prime
didn't even
Day,
plan it. I didn't
I
even plan
know
that the
that's
Amazon delivery. Just,
well, I already have a segue for our next sponsor, but we
Oh,
have to talk about the question first that creates
okay.
the segue. So mine is kind of pre-planned, but it is what it is. Active Stacks is great. We love you. Okay, I think
Yes.
we have time for like one more kind of good question, and then
Yeah.
maybe we'll wrap it up because we're still getting into the swing of things here.
We're old.
Yeah, we're old and tired. Okay. So we have a question in the email, and reminder, everybody, we love your emails. Please keep them coming. Email us at musclescienceforwomen@gmail.com, the number 4, with any of your questions, comments, feedback, anything. And hopefully we will get to them on the podcast. But we have a question from Michelle, and I'm trying to bring it up, and it's taking
I think I saw that one
forever.
too.
I think it was Michelle. Hold on. This is the one I wanted to ask. It's about trying to stay consistent with travel.
Michelle.
Is that? Yes. So here we are. Okay, Michelle, found her.
Mm-hmm.
All right. She says, "Hi, I love your podcast. I found it recently. I've gone through so many episodes in just a few days. Thank you so much for sharing all the information. Yay." Okay. So she is saying she's a 29-year-old woman. She lifts weights on and off since she was 17. So that's great. You've got the time in. After COVID, I really upped my game and I've seen amazing results. My current problem is that I do a lot of international travel for work, around 180 days, I'm assuming a year, around a week at a time. And then she says rest week. I'm thinking like a week on, week off. She
Mm-hmm.
says, I'm an environmental scientist. And when I go on these trips, it's usually to do field work. So I do walk a lot. But since I go to remote areas in different countries, I don't always have access to the gym, or there may not be one at the hotel where I stay. I'm also really bound to the food that's available on location, so I can't always control my macros. I do try to be super consistent when I'm at home with food and training. In this case, what do you recommend for my situation? I can bring resistance bands, but I wonder if that exercise can really replace weightlifting program. I would really like to not gain weight or lose muscle that I've worked so hard to build. So let me know what you think. So, I mean, my first thing off the bat is this is like a legit, can I be consistent while traveling question? Because a lot of people are like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, what's the point of even being consistent when I travel? And they travel like 4 times a year. It's like, dude, come on. But if you're
Mm-hmm.
traveling like that half the year, I mean, that's a really significant amount of time away from your regular scheduled
Yeah.
programming. So, what do you think?
Yeah. So my first thought, which always is my first thought for these questions usually is um I work with clients, like my one-on-one clients and even people in my flex fam that do travel often and they need substitutions or alternatives for things. And everybody's different, right? Everybody has access to different things. And so it's more of like, okay, having that feedback from a coach or someone who can help you to like do the substitutions or find those substitutions or alternatives that will make sense for what you're doing and what your goals are. And so that's one thing. It's like, yeah, you can have the resistance bands, but are you utilizing them in the right way, right? Like, are you still following a program that is progressive while you're traveling? And also there's so, like we talked about this with COVID when we were going through that, like there are so many ways to be creative that, you don't even need equipment for, right? Like you probably are traveling with some type of backpack or, suitcase. Like it's not the most ideal thing, but you can absolutely load those things up and do things in your hotel room that you will absolutely continue to stimulate muscle growth, whether it's lunges, squats. There's so many different options. So it's kind of like the awareness behind knowing what those options are and how to utilize them correctly for your specific goals. And that's, in my opinion, where a coach comes in, because they can help you, or at least literally like write your program based off what you have available, right? So like one-on-one coaching, we both do that. That is one-on-one for a reason. It's premium for a reason, because we literally go in and be like, okay, what do you have access to? If you tell me you only have access to literally your backpack, and some books, like we'll make it work. Like I'll make you work hard and we will like get something out of that. It's just you have to have the resources and the guidance to be able to do that. So that would be kind of my advice is like, are you actually, if you're really serious about this, are you utilizing all the tools you have i.e. one of those being a coach to help you to do this. And the other thing is, with this nutrition side of things, like, are you knowledgeable enough to make the decisions with what you have available? That's another thing too. Like, if you know how to choose the right things, even though you might not have the most control over it, you can still very much get very far. And also, if you are, stocking up on things that you do have control over, right? Whether it's snacks or packaged foods, things like that. I'm kind of getting where your
Oh, we're on the
transition
same
is
page.
going. So
Look
I
at
won't,
that.
I won't take your thunder there. But I think it's all about, like we talked about, just being resourceful. And if you're really serious about this, like, there are ways to get it done. And sometimes you just kind of need a little bit of extra help from the outside, or someone from the outside looking in to kind of help you organize that. So that would be my take on it.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think, first of all, it sounds like she's doing a lot of the right things, like being really
Mhm.
consistent, her awareness of, some things are maybe suboptimal. So I have to like pay attention to what I'm doing and make the best choices possible within, my constraints, being super on the ball when you are at home. Um, and I think it's worth doing some kind of audit too. Like, if you're asking the question, does that mean that you have already noticed that maybe you're losing some muscle or some strength, or maybe you feel like you don't look as good in the mirror or something? Like, are these just thoughts in your head? Are you pre-worrying, or is there actually something going on? Right. Because sometimes you
Mhm.
need to take like a real clear audit of like, what's the actual situation? And then to your point, okay, if the situation is I'm losing fitness and muscle because I'm traveling 100 in 80 days of the year, then yeah, I probably need some outside help. I need maybe somebody who can do some programming for me, who that's their job, and somebody who can
Mhm.
help hold me accountable. But sometimes it's people, and I'm not saying this is her, but sometimes people are just kind of spinning their wheels and thinking like, oh, I travel a lot, so I'm going to get super out of shape or whatever. Maybe you are already doing pretty good. Maybe you are on top of it. Just, do the audit.
Mhm.
But my segue was, yeah, you can, even when you're traveling, you can prepare yourself. And depending on the degree of intensity or analness that you want to be, you can bring food with you. You can do that kind of stuff, and you can bring snacks and healthy things. So you could bring your active stacks. You can literally bring
Mhm.
protein powder with you wherever you go, if protein is a big goal of yours, which it should be. And also bringing snacks like Paleo Valley beef sticks. They've got some superfood bars. They have real food based supplements. They've got vitamin C, which you should be taking, Rachel,
Yeah, I am.
because you don't
I
feel
am.
good.
Mhm.
And they've got fish roe, right? And then they have
Yeah.
a beef organ complex. Like, if you want to be that level of on top of this stuff, there are always things you can prep and pack and bring with you. So Paleo Valley is a great example. We have lots of other recommendations and things we could tell you, but you should go to paleovalley.com forward
Mhm.
slash muscle science and look through what they have and their options. The next time you go on a trip, bring some beef sticks, bring some bars, bring some stuff so that you have some snacks and you don't get hungry and make a poor decision, right?
Mhm.
And if you use our code, you get 15% off. So it's kind of a
Oh,
no brainer. Um, but yeah,
yeah.
and then so the only other thing I would say too, because again, I agree always with Rachel's assessment that just get a professional to help you. Um, Another thing that's just been top of mind for me lately, and that's why I wrote this blog post, it was in my newsletter, about ways that you can improve whatever your current plan is. So if your plan, whatever your plan is when you're home, training program, and then maybe when you're in your hotel room and it's like some body weight stuff and some band stuff, and maybe you're feeling a little stuck, or you're like, I don't know if this is really doing it anymore. I don't know. Like, you're just not feeling super
Mhm.
inspired. There are some audits or some things you can tweak without even changing your programming yet, to be like, am I maximizing what I'm currently doing? And one of the
Mhm.
things that Rachel and I talk about all the time in our programs is the most important thing for building muscle is muscle tension. Is whatever you're doing, whether it's a kettlebell or a band or a push up or whatever, are you, really maximizing and optimizing the muscular tension and the work that your muscles are doing? A lot of people, what happens with their programming is they get bored and they go on autopilot and they kind of just aren't doing the reps
Yeah.
that great. They're rushing through things. They're just waiting to the end of their workout and then moving on. Like, are you fully there? Are you maximizing your time under tension and your the intensity of your muscle contraction for your lift, which you don't necessarily have to go heavier. Maybe you just have to slow down the movement. Maybe you just have to adjust your movement. Maybe you have to pick a different movement. I don't know. But you could, again, take stock of what you're currently doing and being like, am I doing it the best that I can? Because I see, and I don't mean to be judgy because I do it too, but I go to my Globo gym and I see some people just really half-assing it. And I'm like, if you're here, you're taking the time and the investment, like just fully be here and put a little more effort in, right? Intensity is important. So anyway, that's my kind of last thing is like, are you getting as much out of what you're doing as you can? And if not, then yeah, maybe it's time to get a coach and level up a little bit.
Yeah, 100%. I could not agree more.
Cool. We did it. We made it. I hope everyone's glad we're back. We're glad we're back.
Yeah.
And that's all I have to say about that. We'll be back next week answering more questions, just talking like we always do, just jabbering on.
Just chatting it up.
Just chatting it up about health and not doing stupid shit.
Oh man, I gotta stop. I need to start not doing stupid shit. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
There you go. Don't be.
There you go. Don't be insane.
There it is.
I felt very insane this past week.
YOLO. All right.
Oh gosh.
Next time.
Okay. Bye.